Welcome back to Music Rankings, Reviews, and More, and today on the channel what we are going to be doing is a review of 21 Pilots' new album, Clancy. Now, this is their first album in 3 years, which follows a cycle that they've been releasing an album every 3 years. The last one, so that would be back in 2021, and then they had one in 2018 titled Trench, and then Blurry Face and so on. So yeah, basically how this is going to work. If you know, you know, and if you don't, we'll just briefly explain it and go over it. So basically we'll get into the strengths and weaknesses of the album, because obviously no album is perfect, but obviously this album, in our opinion, had a lot of strengths, more so than weaknesses, of course. Then we'll get into a track breakdown. We'll each share our individual thoughts. When writing these reviews, we did not look at we looked at each other's thoughts, but only after we were done writing our section of that song, so we couldn't bounce ideas off each other. I'm sure some of what we'll say is similar, but there's obviously going to be a fair share that isn't. So yeah, we'll do a track breakdown for all 13 songs and give our individual song score for each song out of 10. Yep. Basically, in our opinion, if it's below a 7, that's not the most desirable score. You kind of want to be above a 7 at least. And then the hard to achieve area is, in my opinion, would be a 9.5 or a 10. Yeah. Anything 9 or below is pretty achievable, I would say. Yeah, and then once we are done with the track breakdown, what we will do is list the best and worst songs, and if we have final thoughts, I know Christoph wrote some final thoughts. I did not, because I wrote way too much, in my opinion, although Christoph arguably wrote more than I did, but I felt what I wrote was too much, because I spent nearly an entire page writing about one of the songs, which, well, I'm not going to spoil what that is right now, but you will see, because I will tell you when we get there. So yeah, that'll basically be how this goes. Yeah. Also, before we get into the review, I did want to say that I found this album particularly interesting, mostly because what I did on a lot of songs was I could relate some songs to other songs that were also on this album, and then there was other songs I could relate to past 21 Pilots songs. And then there were certain songs or even music videos I could relate to certain media connections or random little tidbits. I was like, wow, this reminds me of that, so there's just a lot of comparisons that are pretty cool that a lot of people haven't pointed out yet. My mind just works like that in interesting ways, I guess. So if you agree, that's pretty cool, I guess, too. So alright, so starting off, strengths and weaknesses, I'll go first then, Christoph. So what I said for strength is the sound is on full display, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of inspiration taken from past albums that works really well within the context of this album. Also, Paul Meany is back on production. He was very prevalent on Trench. I like to think of him as the third member of 21 Pilots in a way, because he really gave him that sound on Trench. If it was just Tyler and Josh, I don't think that sound is as crisp as it is. Also, there was no complete clunkers on this album. That's kind of a spoiler of it's going to be a good scoring album. Obviously, I'm not going to say what yet, or which songs were good, which songs were not as good. Also, Tyler shows he's a versatile singer. There's his normal singing, which is just what he normally sounds like, but then you also get the screaming type vocals and yelling type vocals that'll be really good to sing along to in concert. And then you also have some, really good, sweet, honey-baked falsetto, which sounds really good. Also, Josh Dunn shines on every song and literally makes certain tracks good, which I'll explain which songs those are, but when the slower songs, some of those, the ones with drumming, they can make it really good because he has this really good sense of rhythm and what to add. And also the bass lines in most of these songs are really groovy and pretty interesting to listen to, and just make the song a fun time. So yeah, and so moving on to weaknesses, I said there was a disappointing amount of lore, partially because I expected a little more than the obvious 3 songs. There is somewhat of some lore into some other songs as well, if you read into it, I guess, but I also said that because I felt like some of the best songs on this album, no spoilers, were the ones with lore. And then the other main weakness, again, not that bad, was a few questionable lyric lines, mainly the songs Overcompensate, and I'll explain what those are when we get there, because it's the first track, we won't have to wait long to hear it. And then Lavish, which, if you've heard the song, you know what I'm talking about. There's more than just one line, there's at least 3 or 4 that are a bit suspicious, and 2 that I really pointed out, that we'll get to. So yeah, those are the main weaknesses for me.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this album. Josh's drumming really stood out, especially just really great job just throughout. Bass also was really good, especially on some tracks that we'll get into. I just feel like it fits together as an album just so well. The lyrics also are really great, and we'll get into some of the lyric analysis. I just think they really are just very interesting, both in some with terms of the lore and dealing with his mental health and just his life. Tyler is just a great lyricist, and I love how
Yeah,
except on
Lavish.
Well, we'll get to that. But like the songs have multiple meanings. You can interpret them in multiple ways, and none of the ways are really wrong. This is an interpretation. So, yeah, I just really enjoyed this album. So I wouldn't really say there's much weaknesses. All I would say is just a few songs have a bit of more basic sound, and it's not bad.
Yeah, I would agree.
But
with
like,
that. There's at least like three, maybe, or two.
But like
at least
overall,
two.
I still think it's a great album, and we'll get into the specifics. So yeah.
Alright, so starting with the first track, Overcompensate. Basically, this is the first single off of the album. Interesting little tidbit here. They actually did the first 3 singles. So track 1 is the first single, track 2, second single, and track 3, third single. And then the last single they released, which was the Craving, is like track 7 or whatever. So, yeah, it's just interesting how they released singles. They really front-loaded this album, I feel like. Even though, spoiler, that's not where a lot of my favorite songs are. So yeah, starting out with Overcompensate, this song opens up with some callbacks to certain lyrics from the track Bandito off their album Trench. And then like comes up a really cool beat switch, courtesy of Josh Dunn for that. It really sounded interesting and important in the song. And then this is probably the best sounding song on the album from a production and mixing standpoint. It's really clean and crisp. It like gave me some Trench vibes, especially partially because of the lore, but also because of the sound quality. There are some questionable lyrics here, which might be like the only downside, despite it being one of the lore-related songs with the word choice of like gobsmacked. That's just like such a weird word to use in a song ever, but like especially in like a rap verse as well, because that's when it's occurring. That being said, this is still a fantastic song to open up the album with. I do like, yeah. Well, okay, you can notice like it's lore-related. Thanks to lines like "Earn My Stripes" and "If You Can't See I'm Clancy." Both of those are like clear references to something lore-related, of course. But I do, however, wonder towards the end of the song when Tyler discusses the years seeming too short if he's referring to the way years feel in Trench or in the real world, because like otherwise I feel like if he's talking about the real world that he's living in, that doesn't really fit into the song too well, considering it's supposed to be lore based. But if it is a reference to years in Trench and in Dima, then yeah, I could understand that a little bit. And the score that I gave for this song was a 9 out of 10, so we're starting off really strong. Tough to top that one.
For sure. Yeah, so I love the intro with this. Like, the whole song just flows really well, and his rapping is great. Drumming especially stood out on this track. It's just really great. Like you said, the beat switch, that was just awesome. And I really love the lore in this song, and it's just a great way to open the album, really. And the lyrics I also found pretty interesting. Like, it feels like he's overcompensating. Obviously, like, he's like flying by the dangerous bend symbol as it sees in the song, like, saying how like he would sometimes just fly through life and like just learn things the hard way, just like go straight into things, don't take your time, you'll figure it out later, just fly by the dangerous bend symbol. And we'll see later on in the track later I'll mention he kind of changes his ways.
I feel like that's also a really relatable lyric, not just in driving, sure. I mean and me for driving as well, but also just in life as well, like just especially
like how you go through life,
yeah, especially like with like high school, like being the last couple of months, it's like you really want to like make the most of it. So
and I feel like as you mature, like we'll get to later in the track, later in the album, he kind of realizes, well, maybe I shouldn't just fly through life, I could take it slower. So yeah, great song. 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, starting off strong for both of us. Yeah, I also feel like on this album, spoiler, we don't really disagree too much on any of the scores that much. At most, maybe like a 1.5 point difference on scores, but mostly pretty similar. Alright, and then go into track 2. Much different feeling and vibes from this song than the first one, in my opinion. So yeah, this track is like a pop-punk rocker in the vein of something like an old-school Green Day song, although it's a lot more complex than that, as it's like not just simply down the path of a pop-punk tune. There's like more layers, and you also get these like slower sections that include some nice piano. And they also connect to the faster parts of the song as well. Also, Tyler, in my opinion, is a much better singer than Billy Joel Armstrong, but like controversial take probably for some. And yeah, the drumming is essentially non-stop, as it has to keep up with the catchy riff that goes all throughout the chorus and parts of the verses. And then a lyric that I picked out from this song was, "Then I heard Kid get out of the road," because I feel like this could be a reference to either Truce or Heavy Dirty Soul, potentially, which is weird because this is the first time I realized those songs are actually back-to-back chronologically, and the videos are somewhat similar in a way, just in the fact that, they have Tyler standing in the road. And I can also relate to this song as well because, as someone who didn't have the semester I hoped to, I could relate to that. Also, the bridge in the song is really good. Nearly forgot to mention that. Plus, the final 2 minutes of the song, sing-along concert, that should be really awesome as well. I gave this one a similar score to the first one, despite being a very different song. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Next Semester. It's kind of like the opposite of Overcompensate in terms of production. Overcompensate, really well produced, and this is like more minimal production, but still like really well done, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think the bass is pretty good, the drumming is very strong, and I like the layering with like the ukulele, and like, it's just layered nicely and has cool transitions throughout, I'd say. And I just think this is just a really like powerful, emotional song. Honestly, it's kind of one of those songs that's like a banger. It's like you really love singing along to it, but like has really strong meanings too. It's like I feel like it describes like a failed suicide attempt, like he's trying to get run over or something. But then he said, "Hey kid, get out of the road." So he stopped, and it's just like I feel like it's just how he feels pressured, and he just like says, "You have another chance to make things right. Like get out of the road and just start fresh next semester." I also thought this connected to songs like Truce and Taxi Cab, which those are kind of about like starting again. It's just the theme of cycles, like the I Am Clancy video mentioned something about cycles. Just like each day it's a new opportunity to try again, and just a great song. And I think it has some of the best lyrics on the album, and they're just really meaningful. And yeah, great song, 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, and then going into the third single in a row, and track 4 will switch up because we won't have any more singles up until a couple songs later for a bit. So track 3, Backslide. Yeah, so I heard a few people, at least a few, say that this was Stressed Out Part 2, but a more like reflective, mature version at that. And the reasons behind this statement, to me at least, were a little unclear, but my guess is due to the strong structure not actually being super different, which is interesting, especially when considering this is a band where, like, you know, all their songs like sound pretty different and unique from each other. Then you also have like the mix of rapping and singing, which Tyler Joseph switch is up, which he also does on the 2015 hit Stressed Out. And then also to further support this is the music video, which is like basically near identical, except instead of riding a tricycle, he's riding an actual bike. Still don't know when he's gonna finally ride a motorcycle or drive a car or anything like that, but yeah. Also, the production on this track is pretty crisp as well, similar to Overcompensate. And what really makes this track, in my opinion, is like the background instrumentals that are pretty like subtle, but also really add a lot of, you know, flavor to the song as well. You also get the feeling in the verses of this like 90s and 2000s kind of like rap anthem type piece, but obviously with like an easy to sing along to chorus, like proving this band can still easily match up genres like perfectly and make them flow together pretty well. This one was a bit lower for me, but still pretty high, so I give this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, this song grew on me a lot. At first I was like, but like I really like it now. I think it has a unique vibe, and like you said, it's kind of connected to Stressed Out, but it's kind of still different, obviously. But like,
yeah,
this is more of like a rap heavy song, and it's like less repetitive. I mean, it still has a chorus, obviously, but like, I just think it's a pretty groovy song, is like one way to put it. And like the lyrics are also really interesting. Like this kind of connects back to like his mental health. It's like feeling like you're going back in your old ways, or maybe like you relapse, like you're trying not to do something, but then you're worried about like you're going to do that, and you're going to go back in your ways, and you don't want to do that. And like that's just really interesting. And like I feel like it's about like Tyler regretting some things in his past, and it's not something you can just easily beat with your mental health or like depression and all that stuff. And I think this also connects to the lore. Like Clancy is almost able to beat Nico, but he could backslide, which puts him way back in the journey and lets Nico potentially win again. We'll get into that more later. But like, yeah, I just think this is a pretty great track, to be honest, and it's grown on me a lot.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I didn't really appreciate Backslide that much when it came out. The best way I could put it, and the way I did put it at the time for a while, was just kind of a massive disappointment in my opinion, because I like 21 Pilots rap, but it has to be like a certain type of rap. I like it when they rap medium pace, never like super fast, because there's like some rap songs like in their early days that are a little fast paced and I'm not as huge on, but then you have songs that are in the middle, like Levitate, where I was like, I didn't actually appreciate that one when it came out, mostly because I thought all rap sucked, but that's a great song. Listen to it if you haven't. So yeah, anyway, track 4, Midwest Indigo. So on an initial first listen, I was not really feeling this song, and I gave it like a score of a 6 out of 10. Obviously, I bumped it up. But I thought for a minute at the moment, you know, I had been reading too much on Twitter as I saw someone say they felt like this was the filler track, despite being track 4, which if you know anything about album sequencing, track 4s are almost never filler. It's usually somewhere in the middle of the album. And for this album, that kind of holds true, actually. But in reality, the reason I didn't like this one was because of the opening synth. It was kind of an off-putting way for me, at least at the start. I found it to be a pretty bad way to open the first non-single on the record, and to be completely honest, I still do. I really am not in love with that creative choice, and I don't think it really sounds good at all, but it gets a lot better real quick, because I feel like the synth, even though it's present through a large chunk of the piece, it blends really well with the other instrumentation. I didn't really like it at the start because I feel like it was trying to be the star of the show, because there's nothing else happening. But when you added in the drums and the bass, and some of the like guitar parts, I thought it was a lot better. And it just ended up sounding a lot more listenable to me. The drumming from Josh is fantastic throughout this piece, and he keeps a good backbeat throughout. And then also part of the sonic vision, I felt like that was happening here. It seems to like hark back to the days of their Vessel album, you know, both with the synth and then also with the like half yelling, half singing type vocals that are in the chorus, which is sure to get everybody in the crowd to sing along. Yeah. So I just felt like this could fit really well in Vessel, and also the music video for this is probably my favorite, as it encapsulates the title perfectly by having it take, you know, place in like a scene that I would assume is the Midwest, especially with the winters that I know they have there. It's like really cold and lots of snow all the time. And they also got Tyler ice skating, which is awesome because it shows like the band, you know, isn't taking themselves that seriously, but they're also still improving, because I feel like Scaled and Icy was them not taking themselves too seriously, but a lot of people felt that album was a bit of a flop. Not everybody did, but there was some people. But yeah, this is a good example of a song not taking themselves too seriously, but it's still good music, and I gave this a score of an 8.5 out of 10, so it's a pretty good score as well.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed this song. I really like the synth of this song. I'm a big synth fan. Vessel is my favorite album ever, but that's besides the point. Killer drumming by Josh, especially. Like, on this album especially, I mean, 21 Pilots in general, Josh is a great drummer, but I definitely feel like his drumming stood out quite a bit on this album. And yeah, I found it pretty interesting. Like, the song has pretty good vibes, but like the lyrics are kind of the opposite of that, which happens in 21 Pilots songs a lot. I feel like it's like
kind of their thing.
Kind of what I got from this is like he's reaching out to a friend or like a family member, and like they were ignoring his efforts, and he's like, is it really worth it to even try to do that? Like, maybe I should just not even bother, you know? And there's also some lyrics like relating to his anxiety, like not being late, but like he's still worrying about it even if he's not actually late. Maybe he's worrying too much about what someone will think of him, something like that. But another connection with the outro, I Want Love in Sunny Days. I feel like this kind of in a way connects back to Scaled and Icy. The world of Scaled and Icy is kind of, I think of like, it's like, oh, happiness and like Good Day, for example. It's just like on the surface feels like really happy, and like he was forced to put up a front for the
he doesn't
bishops.
want to, like, you know, like be depressed. He wants to live his life to the fullest, being happy.
True.
And all that. So.
Like, I feel that's kind of like the ideal world, like just being happy, but like this song kind of shows you can't really be happy all the time. That's just really not possible in life. And I kind of took away that like the hardships and low moments in life is what make the great things in life so great. Like, like if you just think about it, if every moment was amazing, say every day was Christmas, you'd hate Christmas because it wouldn't be special anymore.
Right,
so,
there's no like special thing. Every day is the same.
So like, I just think this says a lot. Like, you know, everyone goes through hardships and that sucks, but you gotta push through it, and that's what makes life so great sometimes. So yeah, great song. I really enjoyed it. 9.25 out of 10. Yeah.
Just for reference, I'm not doing the 0.25s. I'm only doing like full scores, so like 9 or 8 or 7, etc. Or 0.5s, but I'm not doing like 0.75, 0.25, all that. So anyway, track 5, Routines in the Night. So this song, for me at least, is one of the more basic sounding songs on an album that isn't that basic for most of it, but this is definitely one of them. But I don't think it's in a bad way, because it actually flows pretty well, and there's nothing like out of place. You know, and all the creative choices in the songwriting, they really do make sense here. The drumming is definitely in like the style of like a hip hop song, and the bass is toned down a bit so it doesn't like try to make itself the center of the piece, especially because they're not doing some like crazy rap verse or power pop like piece like some of the other songs on this album. But there also is some solid atmosphere in the piece to create this like feeling of nighttime, so it definitely like fits in with what the song was trying to like go for here. Another thing I noticed was this song has like a very like Post Malone feel to it for me, like mostly just the vibe I get from the song and not like the other things, like, you know, the lyrics, for example. And then lyrically this song just discusses like Tyler like knowing that while most of the world is asleep, he's just like awake because he can't get out of his own thoughts and head, and he obviously like wishes he could just not think about it and go to sleep easily. Especially because in the day like he's fine, but like in the night all these painful thoughts like of depression and like so much more just come rushing to his head, making it incredibly difficult to get to sleep. So it's like a routine because it just happens over and over again, and that's the point he's trying to get across, I think, in this song. And yeah, the backing vocals in the last minute of this piece do give it some more flavor, thankfully, because I feel like this song is one of the more flavorless tracks. It's still really good and has some like cool stuff, but it's not. It might be my least favorite. There's like one or two others that could tie that. So I give this a 7.5 out of 10. So it's the first one below an 8 for me, but I still enjoyed this song. It just, even from a first listen, it hasn't really grown on me. It's kind of just been at that 7.5, 8 range. So yeah.
Yeah. I thought the song was pretty good. Definitely fits the title. Like you said, the instrumentation is a bit basic. It's more of a hip hop style, but it's kind of nice still. I think it's pretty well done, and it is one of the most basic songs in the album, but I think it's still great, personally. And the lyrics, like, once I really, like, looked at them a bit closer, I found them quite interesting. Kind of how you said, like, overthinking at night, just feeling restless, like, being unable to sleep, going through memories in his head while others are sleeping. It's like a cycle, you know? It's a routine, like the title says. And then also, like, I think some memories have, like, stay out, spray painted in white, that says in the lyrics. These might be, like, really painful memories that he tries to suppress, like in next semester, like, his potential, like, failed suicide attempt, so maybe he's trying to suppress certain memories, not to think about those, because he doesn't want to backslide, you know? And I also think it's about, like, his dreams also, like, he relives some of his past memories in his dreams, and this just, again, connects to the theme of cycles and just going back into old memories or routines. Also, I think this kind of connects back to some songs, like Truce, for example, like, I Will Fear the Night Again. He fears the night because that's kind of when his, like, inner demons come out in a way. Like, he overthinks, and it just, like, something about the night just,
I think I know why. It's because I feel like at night there's nothing really. You could say your phone, but, like, just you and your phone really isn't enough. There's nothing, there's no people, especially to keep you entertained. A lot of people are trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And if your mind is constantly, like, just, you know, running itself, it's running its course, then yeah, you just don't have anything to keep your mind distracted. I feel like a lot of the reason people don't have these thoughts in the day is because there's people or there's tasks they have to do, like work, school, etc. Like, that can keep them distracted. But in the night, there's nothing to keep you entertained, really. So
yeah, and I really like these lyrics because I feel like this can be relatable to a lot of people. Like, just like the nighttime, just trying to sleep, you know, suddenly you think about everything you did in the day, stuff you've done in the past, just like, oh, why did I do that, or I should have done something else differently. And it's just relatable, and yeah, I would think this is still a really good song, even though it's one of the most basic. I give this an 8.25 out of 10. Yeah.
Respectable.
Yep.
Alright, getting almost to the halfway point now. Track 6, Vignette. So yeah, this song opens with an atmosphere that is kind of similar to Midwest Indigo, because of like synth and stuff, but quickly distances itself with some smashing bass, piano, and drums that come in really quickly. The bass line in this song was, I noticed on a first listen, was really groovy and catchy. Really enjoyed that. This is a song that feels like a Blurry Face type of song, not like sound wise, but just as far as what it wants to accomplish, I felt like. Although you do have like the eagle sounds in the beginning, which is definitely something you'd hear on like Trench, definitely not Blurry Face.
True.
And then also a lyric that nobody has talked about, but I really wanted to because no one's mentioned it, was it's a tribute to zombies, of which I've become, like, stands out because in the I Am Clancy YouTube video that was released months prior to this album coming out, Tyler basically explains how the Bishops made him perform for their people, and this lyric seems like Tyler, aka Clancy, feels the people he performed with are zombies just to enjoy the music and not see the flaws with Demon and the Bishops. They're basically just like living there, but they're not really noticing that this place has flaws.
Like, right? Message Man. It's like people just vibe to the music and don't always look at the lyrics.
Essentially. And then the second part of the line suggests that he like also feels because he can't leave and he's forced to perform, that he's basically just a zombie. He's like a slave to Dima almost, right? So, like, yeah, he can't think independently and he just has to do what the bishops say. So I felt like this song was almost like a, not in sound or anything, but like, it was like a mix of like Trench and Blurry Face for some themes and stuff, but also, and then you had like the callback to what I think was a Scale Nicey callback, I don't know, that's just the way I'm interpreting the lyrics, and I think it actually works to interpret it that way as well. And then anyway, switching it up and going back to the sounds of this song, the verses are completely rap, but they're flowing like really well to the groovy bass line and timed up drum patterns from Josh. And then the chorus is dipped in some honey falsetto from Tyler that sounds really good, as the production on that part was, you know, enough to make it sound good, but it also wasn't overbearing to the point where his vocals started to sound like robotic in a sense. And then the synth solo was like the one part I wasn't huge on. It wasn't bad, of course, and it's hard to make a synth solo even good, to be honest, but it just felt a bit random and unnecessary. I don't really know if it was needed. I do love synth though in most songs, but I just felt like this is the second time already, and we're only on track 6 on an album, that I just didn't love the way it was used. But it didn't ruin the song because I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was one of the higher songs that I rated on this album. So yeah, really love that track too.
Nice. Yeah, I also really enjoyed this quite a lot. I really like the intro, kind of like a mix of like strings and then the synth and then the drumming again. It's just really great. Josh is just an excellent drummer. He does a great job on this album. I love, like you said, Tyler's falsetto vocals. That just gives the song a unique vibe, and it just kind of mixes it up. Personally, I really like the synth solo. I mean, I do agree it is kind of out of place, but I did still enjoy it. I'm a very big synth fan, but yeah, and also the lyrics, again, I found really interesting. What I think, the way I interpret it, he's like clinging onto his past memories, like hanging on to the vignette. In a way, kind of opposite from like some previous songs, like Routines at Night, he's trying to avoid previous memories, but this one he's kind of like trying to cling back to memories, kind of like nostalgia. It might have not been the best, but like you feel comfortable with past memories rather than being afraid of the future. Yeah, I just think this represents like the nostalgia from his past. Like the line, "Where do I go from here?" shows he feels lost. Like we don't know what the future will bring, and just that can be really scary, honestly.
AI moment.
Yeah, and I did also think there was some potential lore in this song.
Yeah, that's what I said as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was saying.
Like, I thought he's thinking, there's no way I'm headed there. Hounded by a bunch of dead when the search party found him. Like, that definitely sounds like
That's
Clancy
gotta be
escaping
lore.
from Dima. That's gotta be lore,
yeah,
you know?
There's no way that's something
For sure.
lore related.
Like, I just think that's just kind of like thinking, oh, there's no way he'll make it out of Dima, but he eventually does make it, I think, possibly. I don't know, we'll
Right.
get into that later, but yeah, denial, also a big theme in this. Like, it's repeated quite a lot, saying, oh, it's just for a friend, it's not yourself. This also, I think, connects to Tyler's anxieties, telling himself he's weak for seeking help, which is obviously not true.
It basically is like saying like that asking for help is hard, and he
Yeah,
like
which is very true.
internally he knows that, but he can't admit that he's the one asking for help. He's basically saying
Right.
it's for a friend, which a lot of people honestly do because they don't want to admit that they might need help and they're struggling.
I mean,
mentally.
everyone, honestly, could use help.
And most people,
Yeah.
more people than not struggle mentally. They just
For
are
sure.
really good at hiding it. Like,
Definitely.
Yeah, so.
And I also think it connects to like the previous song where it's like, I requested counselor with a counselor, but he canceled twice. It can be really hard to get help, you know?
Right.
Sometimes. And yeah, I just think this is a really great song, and it's one of my favorites, maybe my favorite. It's honestly really hard to pick favorites for me. But yeah, I gave this 9.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice. And track 7, the Craving, Jenna's version. There are 2 versions of this song. We have the single version, Jenna's version. Jenna's version is the one that is on the album, so that is of course the track we will be discussing.
Yep.
I'm not gonna, I mean, yeah, the single version is really good as well, so that's just all I can say, but I'm not gonna like spend a full in-depth analysis discussing it because it was not included on the album.
Right.
So yeah, anyway, this song opens up with some audio of Jenna talking to their child, I'm pretty sure, which already is really wholesome and also very personal, I'm sure, to Tyler as well. And the entire version of this song, at least, is played acoustic and slow on the ukulele, I believe. This also feels like the type of song that you would play to like a loved one around a campfire, because this is like the only this is the only song on the album you could basically completely replicate from the recording. All you really need is a guitar or uke, and then just like your vocals, assuming they don't suck.
Right.
And then the chord progression is pretty simple on paper, but at least it does truly fit the song pretty well.
Yeah.
And then the music for this tune is also just as personal and wholesome as the song. You know, it's not the most fun, entertaining, or exciting song, but that's not its goal. It's a clear song to understand what he's going for. It's the most clear lyrically, I feel like, as well. Yeah, like we're not questioning whether or not there's lore in here. There's not. We know that. And then Tyler feels like he almost like got lucky, and sometimes he's not worthy of like, you know, her love, and he expresses he craves her essentially. Hence the title.
Yeah.
This song is like Tyler's way of saying like he sometimes struggles to fully like explain the way he feels. So like his actions and you know, the songs he writes for her are sometimes the best way to let someone know how you feel than maybe directly stating it. And all I can really say is even if you didn't like this song, I can assure you Josh Dunn liked it less for obvious reasons, because there was no drumming on this album. He basically just had to do nothing.
That's true.
Yeah, also I gave this a score of a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much most of what you said. Yeah, so I just think it's a sweet ballad. Of course, it's like completely acoustic. I do prefer the single version as a song, but like it's a single and this makes sense like being on the album. You couldn't release this version as a single, so I can't complain. It works for what it is.
Right, and I feel like it also works vice versa. You can't really put the single version on this album. I mean, you could, but it just wouldn't make sense to Tyler.
Yeah,
and it, like,
that's true.
Yeah, it's what he wants to do, right? Even if we don't love the song, it makes sense for him.
Yep, and I just definitely agree. Like, it feels like a campfire song, and like it's just a very intimate and like wholesome feeling song. You know, it's my least favorite. I'll just say now, but like not at all bad. And the lyrics
It's
also,
one of my least. I don't know if I put it last, but we'll see.
And the lyrics are also just pretty good, you know, like you said, he craves his wife, but he can't always really communicate. And like how he worries might not be good enough, or like, does he really deserve her? Like again, his anxiety just shining through. And I also feel like part of in here was like the fear of the unknown. He doesn't really know what the future will
Also,
bring.
he's just
Like
kind
I said,
of
with
paranoid in a sense that he's not enough. Like, because I feel like this is like a lot of overthinking.
Yeah, and I also thought he's kind of thinking he wants to savor every moment with his wife and his kids because nothing lasts forever, and
we don't know how long
talk about that
around
later.
like your kid will be,
Station.
or
Exactly.
your wife will be, or your other significant other. So yeah,
it's kind of like don't always fly by the dangerous bend symbol. Sometimes you gotta take life slow because it doesn't last forever. So yeah.
Yeah. Track 8, Lavish. Fun one to discuss here.
Oh yeah.
So if I were to choose one word to sum this song up, it would be interesting. Sounds pretty basic and like just not, very vague. But I'll explain why. So yeah, this also had a really dreamy sounding chorus. Just thought I'd mention that before I get more in depth here. So yeah, like if you listen to the lyrics in the song, you'll see what I mean when I say it's interesting. Musically though, this is somewhere between an MGMT and Tame Impala style. The vocals really gave me that vibe right off the bat. I was like, oh, this is like totally an old school like MGMT song, or Tame Impala potentially. The chorus, anyway, like is that style, but then you have the verses which are like rapping and they're really well done from like a flow standpoint, and the drumming was pretty simple within, I felt like, for most of it, but it still fit, of course. And then Tyler also had to change the pronunciation of some words, for example, Capri Sun to Capri Sun.
Yeah.
And also there's some words in here that are used that like nobody like really ever says to make the rhymes possible throughout this track. He's really like going out on a limb and stretching to make this song work and rhyme. But it works because it's catchy. It just there's also some like nonsense lines thrown in throughout the song. There's more than just what I listed, but I didn't want to spend the whole review talking about how basically every line is somewhat of nonsense. For example, we have sip a Capri Sun like it's Dom Perignon. He's basically saying he sips his Capri Sun like it's wine. And honestly, I don't know how to take that. Does that mean that you're drinking your Capri Sun extremely slow? Because every adult that I've ever been around drinks wine really slowly. So I'm trying to think of what he's talking about.
Maybe he's addicted to Capri Sun, like alcoholics. I don't know.
Maybe. Tyler seems like the type that would be addicted to Capri Suns. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
And then the other line that I really picked out, which is even worse than sip a Capri Sun or Capri Sun like it's Dom Perignon, is I see the problem is your proctologist. Got both hands on your shoulder while you're bottomless.
Yeah.
This is, So basically those two lines, they really serve no purpose other than like a good laugh. They don't relate to the lore. They're not really personal. They're not really mental health related. I just don't see the point. They're funny though. They made for a good laugh. And the song, it really didn't take itself too seriously. I mean, you get those from those lyric lines. Also, especially when you watch the video too. They're just goofing around, or at least Tyler is.
It's a pretty unique video.
Also, speaking of the music video, it reminded me of two things. The first being like how they look like they're ready to be the next like Men in Black, like if they ever come out with a new movie. That's what it looks like with like the suits and the limo and all that. And then the other thing is it looked oddly similar to the Straight Outta Scranton music video from The Office, with the way they're just like going around to random spots and pointing at stuff and yeah. And so anyway, the score I gave for this song, even as ridiculous it is, I still give it a high score. I give it an 8 out of 10, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel a lot like you do on this one. I just think it has kind of like chill summer vibes for sure.
Yeah.
And this is another song that's pretty basic with its instrumentation, but it's still like kind of unique and it's a cool vibe. And Yeah, I definitely do agree. Like, a lot of the lyrics are kind of nonsense, and I might be stretching, but I did come up with, like, some, like, interpretation. Like, one thing I thought of, like, maybe he's, like... So the previous song, he's like, oh, he's not good enough. And then this one, he's like, oh, I'm so great, I'm, like, lavish and all that. So maybe he's, like, overcompensating. Like, it's basically being in denial, trying to cope with, like, whatever you're coping with, and, like, going so far back around that you're like, oh, I'm, like, the best person ever. So... that's just one way I kind of took it. Also, I think, in a way, maybe this is, like, mocking, like, celebrities' lifestyles. Like, I don't want to name any
I feel like
names,
it was. Well,
yeah.
You can name almost any name.
Taylor Swift, Kim Kardashian, I don't know.
Kim Kardashian
You get the
felt
point.
like one for me. Yeah.
But, like, I just think, like, this is definitely just mocking kind of a lot of celebrities. They just are in complete luxury. They seem to have no worries of any kind. They can just say whatever they want. They can live however they want. Tyler and Josh, like, they're definitely still celebrities, and obviously I'm sure they have a lot of money and they're famous, but, like, I feel like...
they feel like regular people.
Exactly.
Which a lot of celebrities don't.
They treat their fame differently. They don't try to hide their struggles. They don't try to...
They do normal people
Exactly.
things. They don't go. They literally don't go riding around on limos. They just wanted to do that to make
exactly.
fun of
That's
people.
the whole
'cause it's
point of
funny.
this music video. He's just kind of
They literally
saying,
said in the live stream they wanted to do this song
Exactly.
just so they could ride around in a limo.
Like-
Which, that's kind of what the song sounds
exactly.
like.
It just kind of shows they really just are better people. Like, so many celebrities just take it for granted.
They're doing it like to be comedic. The other ones
Exactly,
do it for
yeah.
real, like, and they don't think it's funny. They're like doing it for, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think one last thing that, like, it's kind of saying, like, nobody's perfect, but, like, celebrities project an image that they are perfect. Well, I'm sure, like, even the celebrities that have the most luxury probably still have problems, you know? They just hide everything with their luxury and everything. They can't show everything who they are, who they really are. But Tyler and Josh, they're not afraid of that. They're just normal people. So yeah, I really enjoyed the song. Gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Going up to track 9, we have Navigating. So, yeah, next up, we return to the world of Demon/Trench for some, like, lore-related themes and whatnot. The music video definitely lets you know this is a lore-related song, if you couldn't tell from the lyrics. The song gets off to a roaring start with a heavy riff, but then quickly comes back down to earth with a much lighter first verse. Then also starts to slowly build up to this epic drop. More credit to Josh Dunn on the drums for that, because it sounded great. And then it goes into, like, a power pop rocker. And as Tyler sings, I'm navigating, I found the flow of those lyrics to be a little awkward, but honestly I didn't really care too much because right after he comes the lyric, give me some advice, and I legit just got goosebumps from hearing that because the crescendo in that is so damn awesome, and also just felt like, I don't know, it felt really good and satisfying to hear. You'll see what I mean, just listen to it. I also can't believe this is Tyler's least favorite song.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Josh has good taste. Oh.
But just glad, like I said, and what I wrote coming up is I'm just glad that Josh, made him keep it on the album, because this is actually it's one of my favorites. I'm not going to say where because I was about to spoil it, but then I realized I want to save that for the end of the video.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems to be in a lot of people's top 3 off of Clancy. So this song also gave me some, like, Killers vibes with the power pop chorus, and just gets better as it goes along. This also ties into some other songs. First being Guns for Hands, because in the music video, Tyler gives Josh a mask, and that's in Guns for Hands. And then in this one, the roles are reversed, and you see when Josh giving one to Tyler, probably to not get caught by the Bishops and Nico, I would imagine.
Right.
Also, this track ties into My Blood, as the outro for Navigating was essentially the intro for My Blood. It's basically the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And then lyrically, this song is very important to the album as well, because it discusses people with anxiety and how you can overinterpret social situations, and you basically feel like you're navigating through them.
Very true.
Anytime you're, like, interacting with someone or talking to them, and just, like, it admits, like, how tough that can be, but it also ties back into the lore as, like, Tyler, aka Clancy, is literally navigating through Dima to try to make it through Trench. So yeah, the score that I gave this song was a 9.5 out of 10. Which I'm not going to say if that's the highest score I gave or not, because I want to keep things spoiler-free until the end.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this track. Definitely a standout and one of my favorites. And I really liked the drum fills in the very beginning, and then just the drumming throughout the song. Really great. Honestly, I feel like this could be a great workout song, really gets you on the
agreed.
run.
I didn't write that, but I agree.
Yeah, and the bass line also is really great, and his vocals are great. I can say that for every song.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, like you said, it's obviously very lore heavy. Like Tyler/Clancy is, like, navigating through Demon and Trench, like you said. He's trying to find his way back home. Also, I think this kind of connects back to Routines in the Night, where he's navigating the thoughts and feelings in his head, which Dima and Trench kind of represent his mental health struggles. So like when he's navigating through Dima, he's also navigating in his head, trying to fight.
That's what I said. It's like it's kind of both in a way.
Yeah,
it works for both.
So like those are kind of connected. And another thing I did find interesting, he feels the need to apologize for navigating in his head. He says, "Pardon my delay." So I feel like this is sometimes how like people can get stuck in their own minds. Maybe they're trying to like think of what to say or like,
also
what to do.
Another
you know?
like way I could tie into this is like sometimes when you're doing a certain task or talking to a certain person and something like slightly confuses you or doesn't make the most sense, you feel like you're navigating in your head.
Exactly.
I know for me, I've had situations like that, but like sometimes at work, I will just like randomly freeze up because I literally feel like I'm like navigating through something. I don't know what. Maybe it's like an interpersonal conflict that I had throughout the day, or maybe it's like something work related. Who knows? It could be literally anything. And I feel like, and then it'll take me like 5 seconds, and I'll realize, wait, I need to be doing something else right now. So sometimes like, I just have those like, moments. So yeah, I totally can relate to this song as well.
This definitely just feels quite relatable, and I think it's just like something most people go through, and you feel bad because you're like, oh wait, I'm letting.
That's what I'm saying. I always feel bad, like when I'm letting people down. I'm like, sorry for being like slow, because like, I was just like thinking about something and I got off task.
Yeah, I feel like everyone probably goes through this to some extent, maybe some more than others, obviously. But like sometimes you just don't know what to do next, and like you just gotta take a bit to really like gather your surroundings. Like, oh, I gotta do this. There's just a lot of uncertainties in life, and Tyler just worries a lot. So yeah. I really enjoyed this, and 9.5 out of 10. Yep.
Yeah. Same score. We basically have the same opinion on this song, more or less.
Yeah, great song.
All right. 4 songs left. Track 10, Snap Back. So this song very much feels like a chill Tame Impala song due to some of the background instrumentals and atmosphere, and also some of the specific like falsetto vocal parts. It sounded really damn good in this song. The falsetto in this song is definitely the best on the album. It's so great. This song also has some of the most beautiful sections of any of the songs on the record, like the oohs, I guess, on this track are just really satisfying to listen to. Also felt like, we were talking about this earlier, but like it feels like chlorine, gave some chlorine vibes from that. And then lyrically, this is what Tyler like kind of like is planning plans to do after backsliding into his own old ways. And funny enough, this song actually says it's a backslide. So basically this song and Backslide are essentially connected. A lot of lyrical themes in between them. This is like after he's backslided though, that's the one difference. I also see his haircut in the music video being symbolic of him like snapping back to his old ways and like kind of changing. And also in the music video, like the end, when like the garage opened up, there's like this car and it has its lights on, and I feel like this could potentially tie in as a reference to next semester's lyrics. I pray those lights will take me home. So maybe he's going to wherever that is. Maybe that could be something lore related as well. Who knows? I can also see why Tyler said this is likely like his favorite on the album. It's really subtle but flows like really, really well, and everything is really cohesive throughout the track. I felt like this is the Cut My Lip on the album, like one because it's like also the track 10, but also it's a lot less complicated than some songs and underrated, but it's secretly among some of the best songs in certain aspects of what makes a song good. And also shout out to Josh because he's not going crazy, but his rhythm here keeps the song really interesting throughout like the rapping part. Before we get to the like crazy good like atmosphere and ooh part. I also felt like there were some instrumental parts in like the last minute of this song that were very like AWOL Nation like, if you know what I'm talking about. Just like the general atmosphere and vibe gave me some AWOL Nation vibes, and of course Tame Impala. But yeah, I give this song a 9 out of 10. Great song.
Yeah, this was another really good song, and it has definitely a different vibe, and the drumming is definitely not like as hard, like as much on the songs, but he does a really good job, and it really helps with the rhythm of the song. And like you said, the lyrical connection to Backslide, this is clearly after he's backslided and he has to snap back. Like, he starts going back in his old ways because he backslided, like maybe he relapsed, I don't know, something happened, and he has to not let them get him down. He has to snap back, get back on track to fighting Nico, whatever. And then also, I want to say the lyrics, if I'm going to snap next, then I got to snap back. I thought it was next, like as a next semester.
Well, that's what it sounds like too.
Yeah, it does, but I realized it's actually next, like your neck, which is kind of weird, but in a way it can make sense. Like if you snap next, you're killing a person. So maybe he's saying, like, killing Nico, or like killing his depression, like he's trying to do that. I'm not really sure, but yeah, anyways, the main point is he has to try to snap back, try to improve rather than just getting down with depression, and like people can go into really downward spirals, and like you don't want that to happen. So snap back. Yeah, great song. 8.25 out of 10 for me.
Nice. Track 11, Oldies Station. 3 songs left now. So this song starts off with some simple singing and ukulele playing from Tyler, but quickly gets out of that phase of the song. This song also kept adding more layers as it goes along, and the piano feels like you're almost like kind of overcoming some challenge. I don't know. It just sounds like that in a way. And then around like 2 minutes-ish into the piece, there's like this vessel like synth work that actually is one of the rare times on this album I'm not going to criticize the synth like that when it's like just the synth, right? Because I don't have a problem when the synth is combined with other things. It's more of how does it sound production wise and how does it work within the song if it's just by itself. Right, so and the lyrics that follow after this part are like really crucial to what this album has like been about. Like push on through gets repeated a few times throughout the remainder of this song, and I think the reason he repeats it is just to really drive that point home, really like have it resonate in your mind after you listen. And it's really just such a meaningful and important lyric, you know, and it's also just like, you know, kind of like Oldies Station. It's like talking about like how, you know, just appreciate that like the people that have like made it like past like the harder stages of life, because a lot of people believe that like life gets easier as you get older, right? You don't have to work anymore, you can retire, relax. A lot of people, like anybody of any age can have mental health struggles, but a lot of it happens when you're younger typically, because you're figuring out life's a lot more stressful when you're younger. So yeah, anyway, I gave this song a score of an 8 out of 10, so pretty good song as well.
Nice. Yeah, this is one I really enjoyed. This is also one that's grown on me quite a bit. It's probably one of my favorites now. I thought it was just pretty good at first, but I think it's just definitely pretty great now. So it's just really kind of satisfying. It has like kind of like a chill, almost like mellow feel to it. And I really like the lyrics as well, and like the build up, like you said. It's like the added like synth. I think that's done really well. It's like more subtle than like say Midwest Indigo or Vignette.
Right, it like kicks off the intro, or you have like the like random synth breakdown, kind of a solo thing happening.
Right, but like I think it's really satisfying, and like since it's more subtle, and it's like it really feels it feels like you've made progress throughout the song. It's like the part where it's like you don't quite mind like how long red lights are taking. It's just like you're taking life slower and you're just more comfortable.
Oh yeah, I was about to say
relax,
that if you were going to. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and like just the lyrics, like I definitely think this continues from Snapback. Obviously the song before, I just think that, like I said, the album flows very well and it just works very good as an album. Like you said, the repeated line, push on through. He's just telling himself to keep going. Even the quote, when there's nothing in the tank, like you have no motivation to keep going, don't give up. Like you can adjust, you can push on through, and eventually you might be able to reach the spot where in this song you can just relax and you don't really mind the things that bother you.
I feel like that's such a great lyric because, like, you know, you obviously he's talking about mental health. I think that's pretty clear.
For sure.
But the nice thing is you can apply that to other things. For example, at least in my life, I would apply that to school because I just have no motivation left. Senioritis kicks in really hard.
Yep.
So sometimes you just have to like push on through. I feel like that can apply to any tough situation, tough thing, really.
It's just a great song lyrically.
Yeah.
I also really like the line about Tyler being in the crib for his kid's first dance recital. Like it just shows like him being a parent, he's matured and like.
Also, I feel like it shows he's thankful to the point where he's happy. Like if he killed himself like in the Vessel, Blurryface Trench, anything before, really,
like,
he never would have got to experience that. He's really thankful he stayed alive and pushed through the hard times.
It just really shows how far he's come, especially like in the early days. If you look at some of those lyrics, you're like, oh wow, he was really depressed. Like you gotta be thankful.
There's still depressing lyrics, but they're nowhere near as bad as like say like Self-Titled and Vessel when they were at like they're like he was at his bottom for sure.
Yeah, and I also really like how this is kind of the opposite of Overcompensate. Overcompensate, he's flying by the dangerous fence-able, flying through life, just like taking as it is, whatever. But this one, it's like, you know what? I don't need to fly through life. I can just.
It's kind of like Overcompensate. You know? He knows he's doing it. He knows he needs to change. He's acknowledging that where he's wrong, and then this is like he's actually taking the action and steps to like slow down in life.
Like, just enjoy life, savor your moments as you are. Kind of like the Craving, where he wants to savor moments with his wife and his kids. Just like
I'm starting to realize how big of a theme that is on this album. It's just savoring life and taking it slow. There's so many
really
songs,
good message, honestly. Yeah, so this was definitely a great song. I gave it an 8.75 out of 10.
Nice. Respectable as well. Alright, 2 tracks left. Really loved the way this album closes out. I feel like the last 2 tracks are some of the best, and we'll get into best and worst songs later, so I'm not going to give away too much though. So track 12, At the Risk of Feeling Dumb. So this song feels like a natural progression to Friend Please, which came out like 14 or so years ago prior, so a long time ago at this point. This song lyrically is about like not wanting to lose a friend, you know, due to like not checking in on them. And Tyler states he'd much rather feel dumb for asking how someone is doing than just not saying anything and having this person engage in self-harm or potentially die, right?
Very good message.
Right. Yeah. And then in the music video, Josh drums on top of a lot of different certain buildings and structures. And then at the top of the tallest building, when Tyler was singing passionately and putting his all into it, and Josh was putting his soul into pounding those drums away, it really gave off the vibes of Where the Streets Have No Name by U2, because it's a very similar music video, and also just the passion that both songs share for obviously different things, but it just really was like a nice little media connection. I'm sure 21 Pilots is not at all inspired by U2. Both are very different sounding bands, but it's just an interesting little tidbit there. This song is both extremely catchy, but it's also very passionate and meaningful, which makes it secretly among the better half of songs on this album, which is actually saying a lot because this album doesn't really have a bad track on it, and all the songs are at least bare minimum good. So yeah, the line that I appreciated off this tune the most was, "It's not worth the risk of losing a friend," which I feel like it's another simple lyric that isn't that hard to write, but it speaks so much volumes about just this song and what it is all about. So I give this song a score of a 9 out of 10. The second half of the album was really strong for me.
Yeah, this is another thing. I basically agree with all you said. I thought this was a pretty great song. This is like a song, like the kind of classic 21 Pilots thing, upbeat music that's like you can really vibe to it, but like the lyrics are really serious and emotional. I love how they do that. I'd probably never get tired of that.
I mean, it basically makes for peak enjoyment in a way.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. I feel like even though some people like what some people would determine as boring music, you still have to appreciate it, right? So even if you're like someone who likes prog albums, some people would refer to that as boring, depending on who it is. You have to still enjoy the music. So, but I feel like the way they do it is like their music is never like boring. Even if you don't like it, you probably just hate 21 Pilots, and that's okay. But most people don't be like, 21 Pilots is boring. I don't hear people say that usually. Yeah. Generally, it's like they don't like the way they sound, which is understandable in some songs, and also just,
Yeah, but back to the song. I think this is a really good build-up, and the drumming, of course, is great. And then, like, the part where, like, at the risk of feeling dumb, check in. Like, not only is that just a great lyric, even though it's simple, it's just, it goes really hard, and it's just a very good song. And the lyrics, especially, I want to talk about. Honestly, when I first heard it the first few times, I didn't really pay attention that much, because I was like, oh, this just slaps. I'm just really vibing. But, like, really looking at these lyrics, it's a great message, like you said. Like, sure, you might feel dumb trying to check with your friends. They might say, oh, don't change your plans, whatever, it's not a big deal, but it's not worth the risk of losing a friend. Like, it's a very, like, simple thing. Yeah, I also definitely agree, like, how you said it connects to Friend Please. Also, I think it connects to Guns for Hands as well. Like, it's just...
And Truce, the line where it's like, stay alive for me, he's basically asking his friends, like, please stay alive. If not for yourself, but for, like, the people that would care about you and be very, very sad. And, like, that's a really tough thing when it comes to people that, you know, choose to take their life. But, like, it's a very complicated thing to talk about. But at the same time, like, I totally understand where Ty was coming from.
Like, it's just a great message, and it's just really important to be there for your friends. Like, even if, like, they don't want anyone to see them at their lowest, like, or they say, oh, you don't have to drop by, just check in anyway, you know? Like, it's just worth it. Yeah, like, anyways, this is just a great song. Deep and emotional lyrics that can definitely help people and just help keep people alive, really. And the music itself just slaps. So, yeah, I love it. It's 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Nice. Alright, final track. This is the track, spoiler that if you didn't know already because I didn't say it, this is the track I wrote the most for. So this is entitled Paladin Strait, which, just in case you don't know what that's a reference to, it's basically on the map of Trench and Dima. It's like the body of water that if you cross it, you can make it from Dima to Trench, and I guess vice versa, but you don't really want to go from Trench to Dima. You want to go the other way around.
Yep.
So yeah, first off, a song comparison to me, for just one, or I guess maybe two simple reasons, is The Teacher from Foo Fighters, in part because it's both groups' longest endeavor that they've done, but also because in this song, the way the guitar descends note-wise reminds me a lot of that tune, and also some of the light backing vocal harmonies. There's a lot of that in The Teacher, there's a lot of that in this as well, throughout the first minute. So yeah, at 6.5 minutes long, this is the longest song. It's a true journey, both lore and lyric wise, and sonically. And I'll bet the music video, when that eventually drops, will be some sort of journey, going to Trench, and coming across Nico and having that final battle, or literally having Tyler, aka Clancy, swim the Paladin Strait. So we'll see. Either way, I have a lot of theories on what the music video could or will look like. And then sound-wise, this starts off with some ukulele and then brings in some guitar as well soon after to contrast, but also pair well with the uke. This is such a great vocal performance, maybe his best on the album, I don't know though. From Tyler, just shows the beauty in his voice throughout the entire song. This song also features really great production and atmosphere that almost sounds dreamy. And I've written this much and I'm only into a minute of the song. That's basically what I said, because I was like, I've already written more than like any of the songs and I still have like 5 minutes left to go, so I had to try shorten it down. But that was a very tough task. That's just how you know this song is pretty damn good. A lyric that I really liked was just a glimpse of visual aid of you on the other shoreline waiting, expectation that I'm going to make it. It's such a great lyric because it not only sounds beautiful with that floating falsetto, but also in terms of the lore, that could be like Jenna or Josh or just anything good in that world, or whoever that's like waiting for him to cross the strait. And in terms of how this could tie back into the real world, I think the Paladin Strait is like that gray area in between the depression Tyler deals with, also known as Dima, and then the happiness he desires, which is like Trench. And crossing the strait realizes that it's kind of just a tough road to get there, and there is a lot of gray. It's not just black and white when it comes to depression, right? And the overall song just feels like a fight for your life, kind of, as it's building up, and therefore that kept me like engaged throughout the entire song. Like even during the like silent section with the bird noises, it still kept me like really engaged. I was like, what else is gonna happen? There's no way the song ends like this. It didn't. Spoiler alert. This song just felt like the definition of kind of being sad, that like a stage of your life is coming to an end. It just kind of has that sound to it, but it's a bit difficult to describe, so you'll have to listen to see what I mean. Towards the end of the song, when Tyler is back to playing acoustics, he mentions climbing a tower, calling out for Nico to show himself, and then his singing is interrupted by what will probably give some a jump scare for sure, with Nico saying, "So few, so proud, so emotional. Hello, Clancy." This is like a nice little callback I didn't realize until very recently to their song off Blurry Face, Fairly Local, which includes the lyrics, "It's the few, the proud, and the emotional." So anyways, that's my best way to summarize this final track, even though it's by far the longest song and section of my review. And the score I gave this song, believe it or not, I don't give many songs in general for albums a score like this, but I gave it a 10 out of 10 because I literally could not find anything to say bad about this song or criticize. I mean, not that I criticized every song here, but it's just like I didn't need to spend the time to like waste, spending like one little thing that I held it back from being a 10. But yeah, this song to me was basically perfect. Loved the way it summarized and closed out this album, if it is indeed the end. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this was a really good song, and I think it's really interesting how it's their longest song. I really like the flow of the song, how it like starts acoustic and then some more instrumentation is added as it goes on. And there's also like the subtle synths throughout parts of the song, which gives it a lot of atmosphere, and it's just really nice. And the drumming kicking in later also just really good throughout. And the lyrics especially, I love how this is like very much lore heavy, but like also kind of like romantic, like to his wife, or just like saying how he appreciates like Josh or his kids, just like stuff like you said.
Yeah.
And just like seeing them standing on the shore is enough motivation for him to try to swim the Paladin Strait, even with the water raging and everything super dangerous, to try to reach them. And I just think that's really interesting. And also the end lyrics with the guitar and then Tyler singing is nice, and definitely very specifically about the lore, like the Bandidos fighting.
Oh yeah.
And he's trying to find Nico, and then Nico says hello, Clancy, which is definitely crazy, like cliffhanger, I'd say. It's kind of weird because they did say this album would be the end of the lore, but also in the live stream Tyler said, "Oh, does this sound like the end?" Yeah. So I'm thinking,
well, because it's a cliffhanger, I feel like that's another reason to describe this song as not only cinematic, but also more reason to believe the music video is going to be even longer than the song itself, and also pretty cinematic as well.
Yeah, so I definitely think something big is going to happen in this music video. Another interpretation I had, I think it kind of shows your mental health journey doesn't really end. Like, you might feel like you're about to beat anxiety or depression. No,
especially if you're diagnosed, like I know Tyler is diagnosed with depression. If you're someone diagnosed with depression, it sucks to say it, but you're probably not getting out of it. You can get better, but it's really hard to completely beat it and never be depressed again. Because, like, you know, backslide. You're probably eventually going to backslide into your ways. That could even apply to, like, other health conditions. Because, like, if you have, like, certain, like, appetite issues, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, you know, sometimes you can, like, eat certain foods, but sometimes your stomach will just, like, attack you. It's kind of like your inner demons. And then you won't be able to, like, eat certain foods or, like, do the certain things, like, you were able to do, like, physically speaking. So there's just a lot of ways this could, you know, tie into certain aspects,
Yeah, I just find it really interesting, like, because, like, it's just not something you can just beat completely, you know, like you said, you can just backslide, and, like, it's not something you get done with and you're over, and then suddenly you're happy for the rest of your life. That just doesn't happen like that.
Right, it's like seeing a therapist, or it's the same way. Just because you're done with seeing a therapist doesn't mean you're going to be completely mentally healthy. They're just saying you're in a good enough spot to where I don't feel like I need to meet with you twice a week or
like I feel like this kind of connects to like Oldies Station. Like Oldies Station is like the point you want to reach where it's like you feel comfortable and you can kind of take life slow, but like you're still not completely perfect. You might still have some struggles, but you want to ideally reach a good spot where you can be comfortable with yourself.
Whole song is about reaching a good place.
Exactly. So I really just love the lyrics of this, especially like, and I'm super excited for the music video.
That's why I find the bird noises particularly interesting, because that definitely sounds like a damn good place to be. And it's weird because like Nico comes in after, so it's really confusing to me.
I mean, that's kind of
it sounds so peaceful. Even like the part where he's singing about Nico obviously being alive still and being out for him. It's like interesting because it's so peaceful up until the moment, you know, he obviously opens the door and acknowledges Clancy's presence.
Yeah, so. I just think it kind of shows like how depression can come back at any moment, really.
Right, it's a jump scare, right? Yeah, like it literally is in the song.
The bird noises, you're at peace, you're enjoying your life, and then suddenly, oh, boom, Nico's back. You just gotta deal with it.
Essentially, your depression is back.
Yeah, great song. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, so I will not be doing a recap because I feel like I've said a lot of the same things. Not about certain songs, but just, like, about the album, and, like, I've already kind of recapped the album in a way, because I've spent so much time talking about it.
There's so much to say.
Yeah, so I'll just give my album score out of 10, and then best songs and worst songs. Obviously, some of the scores for this album were not at all over the place. They were all positive scores at bare minimum. We ranged from the lowest, we had 2 songs with a 7.5, I believe, and then we had 1 song with a 10 out of 10, which I don't give lightly. Which is funny because I remember when I first listened, I was like, all these songs were pretty good, but I'm just waiting. And I was like, this was like when I finished At the Risk of Feeling Dumb, I was like, I'm waiting for like a song to just hit me and be like, this is instantly one of my favorite 21 Pod songs. And then I heard Paladin Strait with headphones. It sounds better with headphones than out loud, in my opinion, because there's just so much unique stuff. And I was like, that is instantly one of my favorite 21 Pilots songs. So that was nice, which always helps to bump up the album score. So the album score that I gave this was a 9 out of 10, which is really damn good. Which means there's not much I could say for weaknesses. It's only like minor things. A 10 out of 10 basically means is like there's nothing I can really criticize, at least in my opinion. So, and since there was, I did not give it a 10 out of 10, but also because there were admittedly some weaker tracks than others. So for best and worst songs, start with best. I chose 5, technically 6, but I tied 2 for 5th place, which were the first track and single, Overcompensate, and At the Risk of Feeling Dumb. I thought both of those songs were really, really important to the album, and the way they play throughout the album and track list. My 4th favorite was Snapback. I really thought this one was just like really like underrated, and just it sounded like really good and satisfying to the ears. 3rd favorite was Vignette. Really liked that one as well. 2nd favorite, Navigating, just probably the best chorus on the album for sure. And then, obviously, like I said, my favorite song, Paladin Strait, which I see literally nobody listing as their favorite. I look at Twitter too much, so I get to know these things. Literally, I don't know why, but it seems that nobody loves that song the way I do. So, but I will happily stand by that it is the best song of the album. So that is what I will say. And then worst songs, Routines in the Night, just because it's a little basic. And then I wrote in parentheses technically, but I said Lavish just because lyrically it is definitely the worst by far. Because there's a lot of nonsense lines.
It's funny though, at least.
Right. I would have put the Craving, but I appreciate what Tyler did for that song too much to put it on worst. So, but I could understand putting it worse. So yeah, Lavish and Routines of the Night. Although I really do like Lavish. It's the easiest song to probably just vibe to on the album because it's just kind of carefree and fun, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite album of the year so far. Will probably remain.
Yeah, it's definitely same, but I could see some albums maybe topping it. Just depends on who wants to drop an album.
Yeah, definitely love this a lot. I've said a lot, but it just works together as an album so well. It just flows really well. I love how like all the songs connect in like some way or another, and especially like on a lot of songs I mentioned, like they related to like the previous songs. So I feel like the track list is very like well done in the specific way it is. Where like it's obviously not really like a concept album like specifically, but like
there's
works
concepts.
Together, there's progression.
There's very obvious
it flows
themes.
throughout.
There's themes both in the lore and Dima, but there's also themes that are applicable to real life, both in depression and in general themes, such as don't take life too fast, enjoy what you have.
Yeah.
You gotta rebound from like mistakes as well.
Yep.
So those are some of the general themes that I really appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love like the lyrics, especially just analyzing them more. There's so much meaning here. He's just a great lyricist, really. Like, there's so much
except on
to
Lavish.
this. Yeah.
But other than that, all the other songs had great lyrics to them.
Yeah, but like, there's just so much to this. I think it just did a really good job. Like, it's its own unique, clear sound, but like, it also brings in elements from quite a few of the previous
I heard
albums.
a lot of Vessel. I heard a lot of Blurry Face. I heard a lot of Trench. A little bit of Scaled and IC. Not really as much self-titled because I don't hear that album in any of their albums, to be honest. Especially because
like,
it's not even with Josh Dunn. Like, I don't expect it to sound like other 20 Pilots. So when people try to force themselves into saying they can hear that on other albums, I really do question it because it's not even really the same band in a way. Tyler's there, of course, and he's the driving creative force, but I feel like Josh, even though he's one person and the other two were two, I feel like Josh is such an upgrade to the band and their sound.
That's true.
Like, the other two did their job and they were good, but like Josh is the real deal. He's a great drummer. One of the best modern drummers in music.
Like, his drumming in this album is just superb throughout. Yeah. And I just want to say my favorites. Vignette, Navigating, Midwest Indigo, Next Semester, Overcompensate. About half the album.
I didn't list some of those, but I don't really disagree with any of the ones you listed. They're all great songs, and all of them contend. Like,
just least favorites, just kind of for me, for technicality, the Craving Jenna's version, just because I really appreciate it, and like I do really like understand
lyrics.
Simple
though.
It's not something I'm more as likely to just put on like a specific song.
Also, another thing is that I sometimes forget that is a single. Well, not that version, but. A lot of singles from 21 Pilots are a lot more basic than their deep cuts. I almost always prefer deep cuts for 21 Pilots than the hits. Like, they're definitely that type of band for me. So.
Yeah, I do really prefer, not prefer by a lot, but I do really like the single version of The Craving. As a song more, I appreciate what this is for what it is. And it's still really good, don't get me wrong. But like, I just feel like the single version does add what it's missing.
I feel like I saw somebody say, and by somebody I mean Brad Taste in Music, say that the single version was not as good because he felt like it was he felt like the sound of it, sure it was the sound, I'm sure of that it was a Home Depot video. Look, I'm not criticizing Brad, but like that's literally just because of the video. I don't think the sound at all sounded like that. You also have the noise of him like making the wood like cutting wood. Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like that's the only reason you could say it sounds like a Home Depot song. Yeah. Because the sound itself sounds nothing like Home Depot. Just the music video looks like something that would be an advertisement for Home Depot.
And I do want to quickly mention, I did also really enjoy that music video. The way I interpret it is basically Tyler and Josh are really like crafting something so well. Like you could say for Scaled and Icy. Like it got a lot of hate.
Well, and they also did different music videos for both.
Right.
I will say the music video for Jenna's version is a lot better than the single version, though. It's a lot more
they're
personal.
different. They work for each
but I'm saying
song.
It's just better because it's personal and it's like.
That's true.
Also, it's just cool to see like what's been on Tyler's phone because like a lot of that he just pulled up off of his phone and just like memories of him, memories of Jenna, and then memories of them together and their kid, blah blah blah. So it's just interesting to see.
And other least favorite, just Lavish, just is more basic. And
I feel like that everybody has that as their least favorite.
Honestly.
Yeah, I would still say I love the song. Just it's easy to vibe to.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say. I gave it a score of 9.25 out of 10.
We basically agree on the album.
We agree on most things. Yeah. This was just a great album to listen to, and I'm definitely going to listen to it many more times in the future.
And in my opinion, in terms of how this stacks up to their discography, for me, it's not as good as Trench. Trench is like one of my favorite albums ever. However, I feel like it is on that level of like Vessel potentially for me. So yeah, I feel like this is either their second or third best. I definitely would say this is better than Blurryface. Blurryface just has more filler. I'm
I
gonna
agree.
say that right
Yep.
now.
That's true.
And then obviously it's more polished, not polished up, but it's just more refined than self-titled, Scaled, and Icy or Regional at best. So that it would definitely makes it over those albums for me.
Fair.
So yeah, it definitely doesn't beat Trench for me, but this is still a great album. It's on the par with
Definitely.
Vessel. I love Vessel as well. So it's really tough for me to determine between the two because this is obviously newer and I can enjoy it more now.
Mhm.
But Vessel has so much staying power. So love
Sure.
both of those albums.
Just really great.
Right. All right, yeah, so that's about wraps up our thoughts. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this album. If you haven't listened, I would definitely recommend listening to it based on our high scores for the album. So yeah, we will see you in the next video. We'll probably try to do some more album reviews if there's anything we're both interested in. I'm sure we'll both
Right.
review the AOL Nation album, although that is months
Yep.
away. I'm not interested in it, but I might just have fun at the thought of reviewing an Imagine Dragons album for the first time. At least from a critical standpoint and not from me just being like, oh, this shit sucks. So we'll see. We'll see what we can come up with. But that's about it. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.